Welcome to this video on the mechanics of active and passive voice. We will explore the structure and transformation rules between these two grammatical voices. Both the active and passive voice can convey the same message. For example, Rita writes a letter in the active voice can be transformed into a letter is written by Rita in the passive voice. The active structure follows the basic pattern of subject plus auxiliary plus verb plus object. The example sentence shows Rita as the subject, writes as the main verb, and a letter as the object. When rebuilding in the passive voice, the object becomes the new subject. The structure changes to object plus auxiliary plus verb 3 plus preposition plus subject. Rule number 1 for transformation is to identify the core components of the active sentence, the subject, the main verb, and the object. Rule number 2 is to elevate the object. In the transformation, the object from the active voice becomes the subject of the passive voice sentence. Here is the structural blueprint to remember. The active voice is sub plus aux plus verb plus object. The passive voice is object plus aux plus verb 3 plus by plus subject. This diagram illustrates the change in roles. The object from the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice, and the original subject becomes the object of the preposition. It is important to remember that the main verb always converts to verb 3, the past participle form, in the passive structure, regardless of the original tense. The three basic rules for transformation are: underline the subject, main verb, and object, write the object as the new subject, and apply the correct tense rules to the verbs. For simple tense transformations, present simple V1 or V5 converts to quote 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 re. Nated with quote. Past simple V2 converts to was or were plus V3. For continuous tense transformations, present continuous is, am, or are plus V4 converts to is, am, or are plus being plus V3. Past continuous was or were plus V4 converts to was or were plus being plus V3. For perfect tense transformations, present or past perfect have, had, or has plus V3 converts to have, had, or has plus been plus V3. Future perfect shall or will have plus V3 converts to shall or will have plus been plus V3. When handling modal auxiliaries, the active structure of modal auxiliary plus V1 transforms to modal auxiliary plus B plus V3 in the passive voice. To change imperatives or commands from active to passive voice, use the structure let plus object plus B plus V3. For polite requests, the active structure using please or kindly, followed by the verb and object, converts to you are requested to plus V1 plus object in the passive voice. Impersonal constructions, such as people say / believe / think that, are transformed using the introductory structure it is said / believed / thought that in the passive voice. This complete transformation matrix summarizes all the active voice structures and their corresponding passive voice conversions, including tenses, modals, imperatives, requests, and impersonal constructions. We now move to mastering the passive voice with advanced mechanics. The transformation is illustrated by the shift of the subject and object, with the verb phrase becoming more complex. True mastery lies in the final structural adjustments beyond simple swapping. Advanced writers focus on three key mechanics: the V3 anchor, the preposition bridge, and the phantom agent. The V3 anchor confirms that the main verb must always be in its past participle form. This is the unchangeable core of the passive structure. The preposition bridge focuses on the role of the preposition, often by, which connects the verb to the optional agent or the original subject. The phantom agent refers to the strategic omission of the original agent when it is unknown, unimportant, or implied, which often enhances focus on the action or receiver. The V3 anchor reinforces the rule that the main verb must be V3, while the auxiliary verb carries the tense and aspect of the active sentence. The preposition bridge allows for using prepositions other than by when linking the verb to the agent, such as with or at, depending on the verb's requirement. The decision to use the phantom agent is strategic. When the doer is universally understood, the sentence is more concise without the, quote, by plus agent phrase. This chart illustrates various prepositional bridges. Examples show how verbs like surprised, satisfied, and known use at, with, and to instead of by. Here are examples of when the agent is omitted. The agent is absent when it is obvious, unknown, or if the speaker chooses to emphasize the action over the doer. A summary of the core differences. Active voice emphasizes the doer, while passive voice emphasizes the receiver. Passive voice is preferred in scientific or formal writing, where objectivity is key. Thank you for watching this video on mastering the passive voice. Consistent practice with these rules and advanced mechanics will significantly improve your writing. Welcome to the next section of our video, which serves as a quick recap of the active and passive voice fundamentals. The active voice structure is subject, verb, object, where the subject performs the action. The passive voice structure is object, verb 3, by, subject, where the object receives the action. Remember the 3 core transformation rules. Identify the 3 components, swap the roles of the subject and object, and convert the main verb to its V3 form. The diagram illustrates the transformation for simple present tense, converting V1 or V5 to is, am, or are plus V3 in the passive voice. For continuous tenses, the auxiliary verb remains the same, but being is introduced before the main verb's V3 form. For example, V4 becomes is, am, or are plus being plus V3. Perfect tenses require the auxiliary been between the existing auxiliary and the V3 form. Have, had, or has plus V3 converts to have, had, or has plus been plus V3. Modal auxiliaries follow the pattern of, quote, modal auxiliary plus be plus V3. This is a straightforward transformation rule for expressing capability, possibility, or necessity in the passive voice. Imperative sentences, which express commands, use the structure let plus object plus be plus V3. This transformation ensures the command remains clear while shifting to the passive voice. Polite requests introduced by please or kindly change to you are requested to plus V1 plus object in the passive voice. Impersonal passive constructions, used for general opinions or beliefs, utilize it is said/believed/thought that as the introductory phrase. The advanced mechanics of passive voice involve the V3 anchor, which means the main verb is always in the past participle form. The preposition bridge reminds us that the connection between the verb and the agent isn't always by. Other prepositions like with or at may be required. Finally, the phantom agent highlights the importance of omitting the agent when it is unnecessary, unknown, or if the focus should be solely on the action itself. This slide reinforces the application of modal transformations, where the passive structure follows the formula: modal auxiliary plus be plus V3. Thank you for engaging with this detailed video on the passive voice playbook. We hope you found the transformation rules and advanced mechanics helpful. Let's begin our time travel into the future simple tense. In the active voice, we use subject plus will plus V1 plus object. To transform it into the passive voice, the structure is object plus will be plus V3 plus by plus subject. You can also form negative and question structures using this blueprint. This universal blueprint shows the structure of the passive voice across different tenses. Note the core constants. The object is always at the beginning, and the verb 3 or past participle is always used. The only variable is the be verb, which changes to indicate the time. The syntax blueprint illustrates the core transformation. The active subject and object swap positions. The active subject moves to the back and becomes the object in the passive voice, usually preceded by, quote, by. This slide demonstrates the X swap, transforming Ram wrote a letter into a letter was written by Ram. Pay attention to how pronouns shift. The active subject I becomes me as the passive object. Remember, to make a negative, insert not immediately after the first helper verb. The first structural prerequisite is locating the object. Passive voice is only possible if the verb is transitive, meaning it acts directly upon an object. If a sentence is intransitive, like she sleeps, a passive structure is impossible. This is essential for a successful transformation. The core constant in all passive constructions is the past participle, or V3. Regardless of the tense or helper verb am, was, will be, or have been, the main verb must always be anchored to its V3 form. This tense conversion matrix provides a quick guide for converting present and past tenses. Note the passive structure for simple, continuous, and perfect forms. For negatives, insert not immediately after the first helper verb. We expand the passive architecture to include future tenses and modal verbs. The universal requirement remains. The passive construction must always end with be plus V3, as shown in the receiver socket. To create a yes-no question in the passive voice, you must invert the flow. Take the first helper verb, such as was, and move it to the front of the sentence. For negative inversions, not remains before the main verb. The WH question override rule is straightforward. The WH word remains at the front, followed by the standard yes-no inversion. However, who is an exception. Since it is the active subject, it transforms into by whom and anchors to the front. If the doer is vague or generalized, like someone, people, or they, the by plus subject parameter is deleted. This allows for a more concise passive sentence, focusing on the action rather than the unknown or unimportant actor. Sentences with two objects, a direct and an indirect, offer two passive paths. You can choose to promote either the indirect object, the human, or the direct object, the item, to the front. The choice depends on what requires the primary focus. Imperative commands use the let structure for passive transformation. The formula is let plus object plus be plus V3. To create a negative command, insert not immediately before be. The universal passive flowchart summarizes the four-step process. Identify the object, execute the subject-object swap, anchor the verb to V3, and finally, align the quote be helper verb. The last step is to validate the output by checking for vague subjects.